Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's your favorite horror reading slash Goosebumps reading slash viral YouTube content creating monster, Kyle. Back here with another Goosebumps reading for you guys, for you ghouls, goblins, and gals. It's been quite a while since I've recorded one of these. You might not be able to tell, but I've actually entirely changed homes slash apartments since the last recording. But as you can see, we still got the pumpkin with the indoor lantern, and we got some fucking Christmas candles burning to really, I don't know, celebrate the occasion of reading a horror novel in the middle of fucking June. Can't think of a better way to rein in a New Year's worth of content than a Halloween fucking Christmas bucket and a Christmas candle. And also, I I got some bevs here that are hopefully gonna help me get through not only the extreme heat in the apartment right now, but through the amazing writing of one R.L. Stine. I intentionally have turned the AC off so there's nothing obstructing the audio. I will say the cost of moving into a city is now there is significantly more noise pollution than standard, than usual. And with that, you might hear stomping from my upstairs neighbors. You might hear drive-bys from the cars that pass by the window over here. I'm trying to think of what else you might hear. You might hear dogs barking. You might hear gats blasting, but it's a small price to pay. I'm gonna move these back here. The official sponsor of this video is Suntory 196 or negative 196, however you want to pronounce it. Pretty good vodka seltzers for 2025. I will say the Japanese versions are better. For those of you who have kept track of my Japan vlog, you know that I've been there, I've sipped the sip, and I know what I'm talking about. But enough house cleaning here. Let's get into the book. You can't really see it. I'm going to try to angle it. The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. Now, I was looking at my limited collection of Goosebumps books, and I realized that the person who had lovingly gifted me the collection had given me fucking 4 copies of Beast from the East, and I was contemplating reading that, but I didn't want to give in. And the one that I specifically wanted to read was like How to Hunt a Monster, How to Kill a Monster. It's basically the episode that I remember watching growing up absolutely scared the piss out of me, where there's this like dinosaur kaiju in this fucking Nolans swamp home that these kids have to find a way to kill. And there's a fucking staircase to nowhere that they exploit to kill the fucking thing. Absolutely scared the piss out of me as a kid, but I don't have that one. So I got Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. I vividly remember watching this episode a lot as a kid. I also remember one time going on, I think this is one of the only times I went on Instagram Live in my life. But what I did is I just set up the camera, didn't say anything, aired the entire episode of Scarecrow Walks at Midnight for Goosebumps, abandoned the camera, abandoned my phone, let the episode play, let some people meet each other, make friends in the comments. Second the episode was over, turn that shit off. And I think that's one of the only times I've been on Instagram Live, which pretty good record, if you ask me. And I also remember watching this episode a lot as a kid with my friends. I remember this one time after finishing the episode, trying to find all the actors online and message them about their performance in Scarecrow Walks at Midnight Goosebumps episode. But they were not very excited to hear from me. And my compliments were not well met. They kind of fell on deaf ears. But with that being said, enough fucking context. Let's see if I can't read this shit. I was looking at it before, and it looks like there's like 120 pages or something. So this might be shorter than previous uploads. With how much I'm drinking, it might be longer. But I don't know. Let's figure it out here. Let's see if I can remember how to do this, and by that I mean read. Hey Jody, M dash, wait up. I turned and squinted into the bright sunlight. My brother, Mark, ooh, I already don't like that name, Mark. I'm already gonna have to do something about that. I know in the Mummy episode that I did, I changed one of the characters' names to Cham. And I was thinking of doing that again, but I figured for people who are watching this on long car rides, shit might get real confusing if you watch these back to back to back. So let's change Mark to Gabe. I like that name. Nice and Hispanic, if you ask me. Not far from Cham. My brother Gabe, yeah, it just rolls off the tongue way better, was still on the concrete train platform. The train had clattered off. I could see it making its way through the low green meadows in the distance. I turned to Stanley. Stanley is the hired man on my grandparents' farm. He stood beside me carrying both suitcases. Look, in the dictionary for the word slowpoke, I said, and you'll find Gabe's picture. Stanley smiled at me. I like the dictionary, Jody, he said. Sometimes I read it for hours. Wow, what a dumb fuck. How are we feeling on the name Stanley? I'm already contemplating changing that as well. I don't hate being referred to as Jody, even though my name is Kyle. Here, let's change Stanley to Robbie. That's not that far off, and it'll make the reading a lot easier for me. Hey, I almost said Cham. I don't know why I would have said that. Hey, Gabe, get a move on, I cried. I almost said the M dash aloud again. But he was taking his good time, walking slowly, in a daze as usual. I tossed my blonde hair behind my shoulders and turned back to Robbie. Gabe and I hadn't visited the farm for a year, but Robbie still looked the same. That sounds about right. He's so skinny, like a noodle, my grandma always says. His denim overalls always look 5 sizes too big on him. Robbie's about 40 or 45, I think. He wears his dark hair in a crew cut, shaved close to his head. His ears were fucking huge. They stick way out and are always bright red. And he has a big, round, brown eyes that remind me of cat's eyes. Robbie isn't very smart. Grandpa Kurt Cobain always says Robbie isn't working with a full 100 watts. Fucking got him. Damn, Grandpa. But Gabe and I really like him. He has a quiet sense of humor. And he's kind and gentle and friendly and always has lots of amazing things to show us whenever we visit the farm, like his cock. You look nice, Jody, Robbie said, his cheeks turning as red as his ears. How old are you now? 12, I told him. And Gabe is 11. Jesus Christ, I hope this pervert storyline doesn't go anywhere. I'm gonna fucking vom. That makes me 23, he joked. Robbie joked. We both laughed. You never know what Robbie is going to say. There's an exclamation mark. I'm not yelling that shit. I think I stepped in something gross, Gabe complained, catching up to us. I always know what Gabe is going to say. My brother only knows 3 words. Bitch, fuck, and gross. Really, that's his whole vocabulary. As a joke, I gave him a dictionary for his last birthday. You're weird, Gabe said when I handed it to him. What a gross gift. If you thought I was going to remember the 3 words that I just established as the only 3 words Gabe/Mark says, you're in for a rude awakening, sister. He scraped his white high tops on the ground, and we followed Robbie to the beat-up red pickup truck. "Carry my backpack for me," Gabe said, trying to shove the bulging dick at me. "No way," I told him. "Carry it yourself." The backpack contained his Walkman, about 30 tapes, comic books, his Game Boy, and at least 50,000 game cartridges. I knew he planned to spend the whole month lying in the hammock on the screened-in back porch of the farmhouse, listening to music and playing video games. Well, ellipses, no fucking way. Mom and Dad said it was my job to make sure Gabe got outside and enjoyed the farm. We were as cooped up in the city all year, and that's why we were sent to Grandpa Kurt Cobain and Grandma Miriam for a month each summer to enjoy the great, splendid outdoors. We stopped beside the truck while Robbie searched his overall pockets for the key. "It's going to get pretty hot today," Robbie said, "unless it cools down." What a dumbass thing to say. A typical stupid fucking Robbie weather report. I gazed out at the wide, grassy field beyond the small train station parking lot. Thousands of tiny white puffballs floated up against the clear blue sky. Are those supposed to be clouds? It was so beautiful. Naturally, I sneezed. I love visiting my grandparents' farm. My only problem is I'm allergic to just about everything on it. So, Mom packed several bottles of my allergy codeine for me, and lots of Sprite. "Gesundheit," Robbie said. He tossed up our 2 suitcases in the back of the pickup. Gabe slid his backpack in too. "Can I ride in the back?" he asked. He loves to lie flat in the back, staring up at the sky and humping up and down really hard. What a weirdo. Robbie is a terrible driver, just like real life. He can't seem to concentrate on steering and driving at the same speed at the same time. So there are always lots of quick turns and heavy bumps. Mark lifted himself into the back of the... Did I say Mark? Gabe lifted himself in the back of the pickup and stretched out next to the suitcases. I climbed beside Robbie in the front. A short while later, we were bouncing along the narrow, twisting road that led to the farm. I stared out the dusty, disgusting window at the passing meadows and farmhouses. Everything looked so green and alive and sickly. I guess it's kind of backwards, isn't it? Sickly and alive? Whatever. I'm not R.L. Stine, what do I know? Stanley drove with both hands wrapped tightly around the top of the steering wheel. He sat forward stiffly, leaning over the wheel, staring straight ahead through the windshield without blinking. "Mr. Mortimer doesn't farm this place anymore," he said, lifting his hand from the wheel to point at a big white farmhouse on the top sloping green hill. "Why not?" I asked. "Because he died," Robbie replied solemnly. See what I mean? You never know what Robbie is going to say. We bounced over a deep rut in the road. I was sure Gabe was having a great time in the back. The road leads through the small town, so small that it doesn't even have a name. The farmers have always called it town. That's stupid. It has a feed store, a combination gas station and grocery store, a white steepled church, a hardware store, and a mailbox. There were 2 trucks parked in front of the food store. I didn't see anyone as we wheelbarrowed past. Good work. My grandparents' farm is about 2 miles from town. I recognized the cornfields as we approached. "The corn is so fucking high already," I exclaimed, staring through the bouncing window, vibrating with motion. "Have you eaten any yet?" "Just at dinner," Robbie replied. Suddenly, he slowed the truck and turned his eyes to me. "The Scarecrow walks at midnight," he uttered in his low voice. "Huh?" I wasn't sure I heard that correctly. "The Scarecrow walks at midnight," he repeated, training his big cat eyes on me. I read it in the book. I didn't know what to say, so I laughed. I thought maybe this was some sort of sick joke. Days later, I realized it was no joke. Chapter 2, motherfuckers, we got there. I know a lot of people didn't have faith in me, my reading comprehension abilities. Earned myself a little drinky. Watching the farm spread out in front of us filled me with sadness. It's not a big farm or a fancy farm, but I hate everything about it. I hate that the barn is a sweet smell. I hate the barn with its sweet smells. I like the low mooing sounds of the cows way off in the far pasture. I like to watch the tall stalks of corn all swaying together in the wind. Corny, huh? Wow, thanks, Jody. I also like the scary ghost stories Grandpa Kurt Cobain tells us at night in front of the fireplace. And I have to include Grandma Miriam's chocolate chip pancakes. They're so good, I sometimes dream about them and cream my pants in the city. I also like the happy expressions on my grandparents' faces when we come rushing up to greet them. Of course, I was the first one out of the truck. Gabe was as slow as usual. I went running up to the screen porch and back of their big old farmhouse. I couldn't wait. Nice fucking italics there. I couldn't wait to see my grandparents. Grandma Miriam came waddling out, her thick fucking arms outstretched. The screen door slammed behind her with a loud kerput. But then I saw Grandpa Kurt Cobain reopen it as he hurried out too. His limp was worse, I noticed right away. He leaned heavily on the white cane. He's never needed one before. I didn't have time to think about it though, as Gabe and I smothered our grandparents in hugs. Oh, I'm gonna vomit. So good to see you. It's been so long. Grandma Miriam chirped happily. There were the usual comments about how much taller we were and how grown up we looked. Jody, where'd you get the blonde hair? There aren't any blondes in this family, Grandpa Kurt Cobain would say, shaking his mane of disgusting, ratty white hair. You must get that from your father's side. No, I know. I bet you got it from a store, he said, grinning. What a sick fuck. It was his little joke. He greeted me with it every fucking summer, and his blue eyes would sparkle excitedly. You're right, it's a wig, I told him, laughing. He gave my long blonde hair a violent tug. Did you get cable yet? Gabe asked, dragging his backpack along the ground. Cable TV? Grandpa Kurt Cobain stared hard at Gabe. Not yet, but we still get 3 channels. How many more do you need? Mark rolled his eyes. No MTV, he groaned. Robbie made his way up past us, carrying our shit into the house. Let's go in. I'll bet you're starving, Grandma Miriam said. I made soup and sandwiches. Perfect for fucking summertime, dummy. We'll have chicken and corn tonight. The corn is very sweet this year. I know you two will just love it. I watched my grandmother as they led the way into the house. Weird grandma going by they, them, but whatever. Where was I? I watched my, they both looked older to me. They moved more slowly than I remembered. Grandpa Kurt Cobain's limp was definitely worse. You already said that. They both seemed tired and at death's door. Grandma Miriam is short and fat as fuck. She has a round, disgusting face surrounded by red curly hair. Bright red. There's no way to describe the color. I don't know what she uses to dye it that color. I've never seen it on anyone else. She wears square-shaped eyeglasses that give her a really old-fashioned look. She likes big, roomy house dresses. I don't think I've ever seen her in jeans or pants. Give the fucking lady a break, dude. You make it 70 plus years on this earth and have some fucking 12-year-old start putting you on blast, and we'll see how quickly your fucking attitude towards her hair and weight changes. Grandpa Kurt Cobain is tall and broad-shouldered. Mom says he was really handsome when he was young. Like a movie star, she always drooled and told me. Now he has wavy white hair, still disgusting when he wets it and slicks it down flat on his head. He has sparkling blue eyes that always make me... Oh, I can't say that. And a white stubble over his slender face. Grandpa Kurt Cobain doesn't like to shave. Today he was wearing a long-sleeved red and green plaid shirt, buttoned to the collar despite the hot day, and baggy jeans, stained white on one knee, held up by suspenders. Lunch was fun. We sat around the long kitchen table. Sunlight poured in through the big window, and I could see the barn and back and the cornfield stretching behind it. Gabe and I told all of our news, all about school, my pregnancy, the basketball team going to the championships, about our parents' new car, about Dad leaving, and Mom growing a mustache. For some reason, Robbie thought that was very funny. He was laughing so hard he choked and spit pea soup. He choked on his split pea soup. Jesus Christ. And Grandpa Kurt Cobain had to reach over and slap him on the ass. It's hard to know what will crack Robbie up. As Gabe would say, Robbie's definitely weird. All throughout lunch, I kept staring at my grandparents. I couldn't get over how much they had changed in 1 year. They seemed so much quieter, so much slower, so much more disgusting. That's what it meant to get older, I told myself. Robbie will show you his scarecrows, Grandma Miriam said, passing the bowl of potato chips. Won't you, Robbie? Grandpa Kurt Cobain cleared his throat loudly. I had the feeling he was telling Grandma Miriam to move the fuck on. I made them, Robbie said, grinning proudly. He turned his big, disgusting eyes at me. The book. It told me how. Are you still taking guitar lessons? Grandpa Kurt Cobain asked Gabe. I could see that, for some reason, Grandpa Kurt Cobain didn't want to talk about Robbie's scarecrows. Yeah, Gabe answered, with a mouthful of potato chips. But I sold my acoustic. I switched to electric. You mean you have to plug it in? Robbie asked. He started to giggle, as if he had just cracked a funny joke. What a shame you didn't bring your guitar, Grandma Miriam said to Gabe. No, it isn't, I teased. The cows would start giving sour milk. Shut the fuck up, Jody, Gabe snapped. He has no sense of humor. They already do give sour milk, Grandpa Kurt Cobain muttered, lowering his eyes. Bad luck. When cows give sour milk, it means bad luck, Robbie declared, his eyes watering, his expression suddenly fearful. It's okay, Robbie, Grandma Miriam reassured him quickly, placing a loving hand gently on his thigh. Grandpa Kurt Cobain was only teasing. If you kids are finished, why not go with Robbie, Grandpa Kurt Cobain said. He'll give you a tour of the fart. You always enjoy that, he sighed. I'd go along, but my leg, it's acting up again. Grandma Miriam started to clear the dishes. Gabe and I followed Robbie out the back door. The grass in the backyard had recently been mowed. The air was heavy with its sweet, sweet smell. I saw a hummingbird fluttering over a flower garden beside the house. I pointed it out to Gabe, but by the time he turned, it was long fucking gone. Excuse me. At the back of the long green yard stood the old barn. Its white waffles were badly stained and peeling. It really needed a paint job. The doors were open, and I could see square bales of straw inside. Far to the right of the barn, almost to the cornfields, stood the small guest house where Robbie lived with the teenage son, Dix. Robbie, where's Dix? I asked, Why wasn't he at lunch? Went to town, Robbie answered quietly. Went to town, riding on a pony. Gabe and I exchanged glances. We never figured Robbie out. Poking up from the cornfield stood several dark figures, the Scarecrows. Grandma Miriam had started to talk about, and I stared out at them with my eyes from the sun in one hand. So many scarecrows, I exclaimed. Robbie, last summer there was only one. Why are there like 40 now? He didn't reply. He didn't seem to hear me. He had a black baseball cap pulled down to the lower of his forehead. He was taking long strides, leaning forward with a stork-like walk of his hands shoved up his ass. We've seen the farm 100 times, Gabe complained, whispering to me. Why do we have to take the grand tour again? Gabe, M-, cool your jets, I told him. We always take a tour of the farm. It's a tradition. Gabe grumbled to himself. He really is a sissy. He never wants to do anything. Robbie led us past the barn into the cornfields. The stalks were way over my head. Their golden tassels gleamed in the bright sunlight. Robbie reached up and pulled an ear off his head. Let's see if it's ready, he said, grinning at Gabe and me. He held the ear in his left hand and started to fuck it with his right. After a few seconds, he pulled the husk away, revealing the corn. I stared at it and let out a horrified cry. Whoa, end of chapter 2. Serious fucking cliffhanger. Do you think our protagonist will survive till chapter 3? It's a fucking ear of corn. What could possibly be in it that makes our protag scream? Let's find out. Oh, it's disgusting, I shrieked. Gross, I heard Gabe groan. The corn was a disgusting brown color, and it was moving on the cob, wriggling, squirming. Robbie raised the corn to his face to examine it, and I realized it was covered with worms. Hundreds of wriggling brown worms. No! Robbie cried in horror. He let the ear of corn drop into the ground and to his feet. That's bad luck. The book says so. That's very bad luck. I stared down at the ear of corn. The worms were wriggling off the cob into the dirt. Y'all afraid to be corny? I was born on the cob. It's okay, Robbie, I told him. I only screamed because I was surprised. This happens sometimes. Sometimes worms get into the corn, Grandpa told me. Nope, it doesn't happen, Robbie insisted in his trembling voice. His red ears burned aflame. His big eyes revealed the fear. The book, M-, it says so. What fucking book? Gabe demanded. He kicked the wormy ear of corn away with his toe of his high top. My book, Robbie replied mysteriously. My superstition book. Uh-oh, here we fucking go, I thought. Robbie shouldn't have a book about superstitions. He was already the most superstitious person in the world, even without a fucking book. You've been reading a book about superstitions? Gabe asked him, watching the brown worms crawl over the soft dirt. Yes, Robbie nodded, his head enthusiastically. It's a good book. It tells me everything, and it's all true. All of it. He pulled off his crap and scratched the stubby hair. I've got to check the book. I've got to see what to do about the corn. The bad corn. He was getting pretty worked up. It was making me feel a little scared. I've known Robbie my whole life. I think he's worked with Grandpa Kurt Cobain for more than 20 years. He's always been strange, but I've never seen him so upset about something as unimportant as a bad ear of corn. Show us the scarecrows, I demanded, trying to get his mind off that damn corn. Yeah, let's see them, Gabe joined in. Okay, the scarecrows, Robbie nodded. Then he turned, still thinking hard, and began leading his way through the tall rows of corn stalks. The stalks creaked and groaned as we passed by them. It was kind of an eerie sound. Suddenly, the shadow fell over me. One of the dark scarecrows rose up in front of us. It wore wow, what am I, fucking stupid? It wore a tattered black coat, stuffed with straw, his arms stretched stiffly out at the sides. The scarecrow was tall, towering over my head, tall enough to stand over the high corn stalks. Its head was a faded blunt bag filled with straw. Evil, evil black eyes and a menacing frown had been burned thickly in black paint. A battered, old-fashioned hat rested on top of its head. "You made these?" I asked Robbie. I could see several other scarecrows poking up from the corn. They all stood in the same stiff position. They all had the same stupid fucking face. He stared up at the scarecrow's face. "I didn't make them," he said in a low voice. "The book showed me how." "They're pretty scary looking," Mark said. Gabe said, standing close beside me. He grabbed the scarecrow's straw hand and jerked it left and right. "What's up?" Gabe asked it. "The scarecrow walks at midnight," Robbie said, repeating the phrase he had said at the train station. Gabe was trying to slap the scarecrow a high five. "What does that mean?" I asked Robbie. "The book told me how," Robbie replied, keeping his eyes in the dark painted face of the blunt bag. "The book told me how to make them walk." "Huh? You make the scarecrows walk?" I asked, very confused. Robbie's dark eyes locked onto my chest. Once again, he got that very solemn expression in his face. "I know how to do it. The book has all the words." I stared back at him, totally confused. I did not know what to say. "I made him walk, Jody," Robbie continued in a voice just above a whisper. "I made him walk last week, and that now I'm the boss." "Huh? The boss of the scarecrows?" I stammered. Do you mean M dash? I stopped when, out of the corner of my eye, I saw the scarecrow's arm fucking move. The straw crinkled and the arm slid up, and then I felt rough straw brush against my thigh as the dry scarecrow arm moved towards my throat. "Guys, the scarecrows are alive." Now, for those of you worried about me drinking, I just want to acknowledge that I also do have a nice glass of ice water over here. You can't see it, but it's just a little bit off screen. It's got a big plastic curly straw that I can reach over at any time and sip through. Hold on, before we get to this next terrifying chapter, let me finish this little lemon 196. All right, that's one down. Oh, okay. Back to it. The prickly straw poking out of the sleeve of the black coat scraped against my neck. I let out a thrill scream. "It's alive!" I cried in a panic, diving to the ground, scrambling away on all fours like a dog. I turned back to see Gabe and Robbie calmly watching me. Hadn't they seen the scarecrow try to grope me? Then Robbie's son, Dix, stepped out from behind the scarecrow, a gleeful grin on his face. "Dix, M dash, you creep," I cried angrily. I knew at once that he had moved the scarecrow's arm. "You city kids sure scare easily," Dix said, his grin growing wider and wider. He reached down to help me to my feet. "You really thought the scarecrows moved, didn't you, Jody?" he said accusingly. "I can make the scarecrows move," Robbie said, pulling the cap down lower to his forehead. I like that he keeps saying that. "I can make them walk. I did it. It's all in the book. Dick's smile faded. The light seemed dim from his dark eyes. Yeah, sure, Dad, he murmured. He's disappointed in his dad. That's funny as hell. Dix is 16. He's tall and lanky. He has long, skinny arms and legs. That's how he got the nickname Dix. He tries to look tough. He has long black hair down past his hips, which he seldom washes. What a disgusting piece of shit. How the hell did Robbie, i.e. Stanley, fuck someone to give birth to Sticks? Or did he do it himself? I want to know. He wears tight muscle shirts and dirty jeans, ripped at the knees. He sneers a lot, and his dark eyes always seem to be laughing at you. He calls Gabe and me the city kids. He always says it with a sneer, and he's always playing stupid fucking jokes on me. I think he's kind of jealous of Gabe and me. I don't think it's been easy for Dix to grow up on a farm, living in the little guest house with his pathetic father. I mean, Robbie is more than a kid than a father. I saw you back there, Gabe told Dix. Well, thanks for warning me, I snapped at Gabe. I turned back angrily to Dix. I see you haven't changed at all, fuckface. Great to see you too, Jody, he replied sarcastically. The city kids are back for another month with the Dix. Dix, M-, what's your problem? I shot back. Being nice, Robbie muttered. The corn has... What? The corn has ears, you know. I thought it said cars. I was losing my fucking mind. We all stared at Stanley. He had just made a joke. It was hard to tell with him. Robbie's face remained serious. His big eyes stared out at me through the shade of the cap. The corn has ears, he repeated. There are spirits in the field. Dix shook his dick unhappily. Dad, you spend too much time with that stupid book, he muttered. The book is all true, Robbie replied. It's all true. Dix kicked at the dirt. He raised his eyes to me. His expression seemed very sad. Things are different here, he murmured. Huh? I didn't understand. What do you mean? Dix turned to his father. Robbie was glaring back at him. His eyes narrowed. Dix shrugged and didn't reply. He grabbed Gabe's arm and squeezed it hard. You're as flabby as ever, he told Gabe. Want to throw a football around this afternoon? It's kind of hard. It's kind of hot, Gabe replied. He wiped his sweat off his forehead with the back of his hand. Dick sneered at him. Still a wimp, huh? No way, Gabe protested. I just said that it would be hot, that's all. Hey, M-, you've got everything on your back, Dix told Gabe. Turn around. Gabe obediently turned around. What an idiot. Bunch of shit. Diggs quickly bent down, picked up a wormy corn cob, and stuffed it down the back of Mark's pants. I had to laugh as I watched my brother run screaming all the way back to the farmhouse. Dinner was quiet. Grandma Miriam's fried chicken was tasty as ever, and she was right about the corn. It was very sweet. Gabe and I each ate 2 ears, dripping with butter. You fucking sick bastards. I enjoyed the dinner, but it upset me that both of my grandparents seemed so changed. Grandpa Kurt Cobain used to talk nonstop. He always had dozens of funny stories about farmers and jerking off in the area, and he always had new jokes to tell. Tonight, he didn't say anything. Grandma Miriam kept urging Gabe and me to eat more, and she kept asking us how we liked everything, but she too seemed quieter. They both seemed tense, uncomfortable. They both kept glancing down at the table at Robbie, who was eating with both hands, butter dripping down his disgusting chin. Dix ate glumly across from his father. He seemed even more unfriendly than usual. Robbie was the only cheerful person at the table. He chewed his chicken enthusiastically and I asked for a third helping of mashed potatoes. Is everything okay, Robbie? Grandma Miriam kept asking, biting her bottom lip. Everything okay? Why was she biting her bottom lip like that, you freaky grandma? Robbie burped and smiled. Not bad, was his reply. Why do things seem so different, I wondered. Is it just because Grandma and Grandpa are getting old? After dinner, we sat around the big, comfortable living room. Grandpa Kurt Cobain rocked gently back and forth in the antique wooden cocking chair by the fireplace. It was too hot to build a fire, you're telling me. But as he rocked, he stared into the dark fireplace, a thoughtful expression on his white, stubbled face. Grandma Miriam sat in her favorite chair, a big green overstuffed armchair across from Grandpa Kurt Cobain. She had an unopened gardening magazine in her lap. Dix, who had barely said 2 words the whole fucking evening, disappeared. Robbie leaned against the wall, poking his teeth with a toothpick. Gabe sunk down into his long green couch. I sat down at the other end of it and stared across the room. Yuck, that stuffed bear still gives me the creeps, I exclaimed. At the far end of the room, an enormous stuffed brown bear, about 8 feet tall, stood straight up on its hind legs. Grandpa Kurt Cobain had shot it many years ago on a hunting trip. The bear's huge paws were extended as if it ready to fuck. That was a killer bear, Grandpa Kurt Cobain remembered, rocking slowly, his eyes on the angry-looking breast. He mauled 2 hunters before I shot him. I did not get to save their lives. I shuddered and turned away from the bear. I really did hate it. I didn't know why Grandma Miriam let Grandpa Kurt Cobain keep it in the living room, for Christ's sake. How about a scary story, I asked Grandpa Kurt Cobain. He stared back at me, his stupid blue eyes suddenly lifeless and dull. Yeah, we've been looking forward to the stories, Gabe chimed in. Tell us one of the headless boy in the closet. No. Tell a new one, I insisted eagerly. What the fuck going on out here? Someone's got like a LED light trained on the inside of my apartment. It's like the cops are looking for me or something. Grandpa Kurt Cobain rubbed his chin slowly. His eyes went to Robbie across the room. Then he cleared his throat nervously. I'm kind of tired, kids, he said softly. Think I'll just go to bed. But, no story, I protested. He stared back at me with his dull eyes. I don't really know any stories anymore, he murmured. He slowly climbed to his feet and headed towards a room. What the fuck is going on here? I asked myself. What is wrong? Dude, end of chapter 4, beginning of chapter 5. What do you guys think of this story so far? I'm waiting for something scary to happen. I remember in the episode, the dang-gum Scarecrow's done come to life. So I'm waiting for that to happen, but whatever. Upstairs in my bedroom later that night, I changed into a long, dingy nightshirt. The bedroom window was open and a soft breeze invaded the room. Tea's gone cold, I'm wondering why. Got out of bed at all. Morning gray clouds up my window, and I can't see at all. Even if I could, it would all be gray. Put your picture on my wall. It reminds me that it's not so bad. It's not so bad. I stared out the open window. A broad apple tree cast its shadows over the lawn. Where the grass ended, the cornfields stretched out under the glow of the full moon. The pale moonlight made the tall stalks shimmer like gold. The stalks cast long blue shadows over the fields. Across the wide field, the scarecrows poked up stiffly like dicks. Dicks in the stocks. Their coat sleeves ruffled in the light breeze. Their pale burlap faces seemed to stare back at me. I felt a cold chill run down my crotch. So many scarecrows, at least a dozen of them, standing in straight rows like an army ready to march. The scarecrow walks at midnight. That's what Robbie had said in the low, frightening tone I'd never heard him use before. Bro, are we really doing a one-page fucking chapter? Jesus Christ. Why don't R.L. Stein, have some faith in your readers? Fucking page 23 to 24 is one chapter. I glanced at the clock on the bed table, just past 10 o'clock. Damn, that's late. I'll be asleep by the time they walk, I thought. A crazy thought. I sneezed. It seems I'm allergic to the farm air both day and night. Why would you think it would just be day? I stared at the long shadows cast by the scarecrows. A gust of wind bent the stalks, making the shadows roll like a dark ocean wave. And then I saw the scarecrow start to twitch.tv. Gabe, I screamed. Gabe, M-, come here, hurry. You used too many spaces, R.L. Stein. On page 24, where you wrote come here, you used 2 spaces, and that's actually a mistake. You don't want to do that, especially when you're a published book. Wow, what a fucking chapter, by the way. 1.5 pages. I'm taking that point out in my final review of the book. Chapter 6. Under the light of the full moon, I stared in horror as the dark scarecrows started to move. Their arms jerked off, their burlap heads lurched forward, all of them in unison. All of the scarecrows were jerking off, twitching, draining, as if struggling to pull free of their cocks. Gabe, M-, hurry, I screamed. I heard footsteps clomping rapidly down the hall. Gabe burst breathlessly into my room. Jody, M-, what is it? He cried. What a baby. I motioned frantically for him to come to the window. As he stepped beside me, I pointed to the cornfields. Look, M-, the scarecrows. He gripped the windowsill and leaned out the window. Over his shoulder, I could see the scarecrows twitch in unison. A cold shudder made me wrap my arms around Gabe. Bro, you're the older sister and you're fucking clutching your younger brother for support. Embarrassing. It's the wind, Mark said, stepping back from the window. Wait, I didn't say Mark, I meant Gabe. What's your problem, Jody? It's just the wind blowing them around. You. What the hell? Some shit going on outside, sorry. You, M-, you're wrong, Gabe, I stammered, still hugging myself. Look again. He rolled his eyes and sighed, but he turned back and leaned out the window. He gazed out the field for a long, long time. Don't you see? I demanded shrilly. They're all moving together. Their arms, their heads, they're all moving together. When Gabe pulled back from the window, his blue eyes were full of tears. He stared thoughtfully and didn't say a word. Finally, he swallowed hard and his voice out low and frightened. We've got to tell Grandpa Kurt Cobain, he said. We rushed downstairs, but our grandparents had gone to bed. The bedroom doors were closed and it was silent on the other side. Damn, them bitches don't even snore? We rushed downstairs. Oh, fuck. Maybe we'd better wait till tomorrow morning, I whispered as Gabe and I tiptoed back upstairs to our rooms. I think we're safe till then. We crept back to our rooms. I pushed the window shut and locked it. Out in the fields, the scarecrows were still twitching, still jerking at their stakes. With a shudder, I turned away from the window and plunged back into bed, pulling the old quilt up over my head. Yeah, that'll protect you. I slept restlessly, tossing under the heavy quilt. In the morning, I jumped eagerly from bread. I ran a brush through my hair and hurled myself down the stairs towards breakfast. Gabe was right behind me on the stairs. He was wearing the same jeans as yesterday and a red and black Nirvana t-shirt. Holy shit! It actually says Nirvana t-shirt. I've been saying Grandpa Kurt Cobain is a joke the whole time, unknowing that this kid actually fucking listens to them. That's fucking awesome. I'm glad the book canonized my fucking shit like that. Wow. He didn't bother to brush his hair. It stood straight up in the back. Pancakes, he managed to choke out. Gabe was only good for one word at a time this early in the morning. I mean, I get it. But the word instantly cheered me up and made me forget for a moment about the creepy scarecrows. How could I have forgotten about Grandma Miriam's amazing chocolate chip pancakes? They're soft. They really do melt, in your mouth. And the warm chocolate mixed with the sweet maple syrup makes the most delicious breakfast I've ever eaten. Dude, I'm eating this shit tomorrow. I'm having chocolate chip pancakes tomorrow. As we hurried across the living room towards the kitchen, I sniffed the air, hoping to smell that wonderful aroma of pancake batter on the stove. But my nose was too stuffed up to smell anything. Gabe and I burst into the kitchen at the same time. Grandpa Kurt Cobain and Robbie were already at the table. A big blue pot of coffee stood between the two of them. Robbie sipped his coffee. Grandpa Kurt Cobain had his face buried behind the morning newspaper. He glanced up and smiled as Gabe and I entered. Everyone said good morning to everyone. What a lazy way to say that. Gabe and I took our places at the table. We were so eager for our famous fucking pancakes, we were practically rubbing our crotches together the way the cartoon characters do. Imagine our shock. Imagine my shock when Grandma Miriam set down a big bowl of cornflakes in front of us. I practically burst into flames. I glanced across the table at Gabe. He was staring back at me, his face revealing his surprise and disappointment. Cornflakes? Are you fucking kidding me? He asked in a high-pitched voice. Grandma Miriam had gone back to the sink. I turned to her. Grandma Miriam, M dash? No pancakes? I asked meekly. That warrants a drink. I saw her glance at Robbie. I've stopped making them, Jody, she replied, her eyes still on Robbie. Pancakes are too fattening. Nothing like a good bowl of cornflakes in the morning, Robbie said with a big smile. He reached for the cornflakes box in the center of the table and filled his bowl up with a second helping. How do you know he had the first one? Grandpa Kurt Cobain grunted behind his newspaper. Go ahead, M dash. Eat them goddamn before they get soggy. Grandma Miriam urged from the sink. Gabe and I stared at each other. Last summer, Grandma Miriam had made us a big stack of chocolate chip pancakes almost every goddamn morning. What is going on here? I wondered once again. I suddenly remembered Dix out in the cornfield the day before, whispering to me, things are different around here. They sure were different, and not for the best, I decided. My stomach grumbled. I picked up the spoon and started to eat my disgusting, soggy, wet-ass cornflakes. I saw Gabe glumly spooning his, and then I suddenly remembered his twitching scarecrows. Grandpa Kurt M dash, I started. Last night, Gabe and I M dash, we were looking out at the cornfield, and we saw the scarecrows. They were moving. We M dash. I heard Grandma Miriam utter a low gasp from behind me. I heard, yeah, you got that. Grandpa Kurt Cobain lowered his newspaper. He narrowed his eyes at me, but didn't say a word. The scarecrows were moving, Gabe chimed in. Robbie chuckled. It was the wind, he said, his eyes on Grandpa Kurt Cobain. It had to be the wind, blowing them around. Grandpa Kurt Cobain glared at Robbie. You sure? He demanded. Yeah, it was the wind, Robbie replied tensely. Dude, there's a little bit of sexual tension going on here. But they're trying to get off their poles, I cried. We saw them. Grandpa Kurt Cobain stared at Robbie. Robbie's eyes turned bright red. He lowered his eyes. It was a breezy night, wasn't it? He said. They move in the wind. Somebody outside my apartment? What the hell? Fucking people I don't know pulling into my driveway. I don't like that. Sorry, folks. It was a breezy night. They move in the wind. It's going to be a sunny day, Grandma Miriam said brightly from the sink. But the Scarecrow's M-dash, Mark insisted. Yep, looks like a real pretty day, Grandpa Kurt Cobain mumbled, ignoring Gabe. He doesn't want to talk about the Scarecrows, I realized. Is it because he doesn't believe us? Grandpa Kurt Cobain turned to Robbie. After you take the cows to pasture, maybe you and Jody and Gabe can do some flashing at the creek. Maybe, Robbie replied, studying the cornflakes box. Maybe we could just do that. Ugh. Sounds like fun, Gabe said. Gabe likes flashing. It's one of his favorite sports because you don't have to move too much. Excuse me. There's a really pretty creek behind the cow pastures at the far end of Grandpa Kurt Cobain's property. It's very woodsy back there. And the narrow creek trickles softly beneath the old shade trees and is usually filled with fish. Finishing my cereal, I turned to Grandma Miriam at the sink. And what are you two doing today? I asked her. Maybe you and I could spend some time together in M-dash. I stopped as she turned to me and her hand came into view. Oh, I let out a frightened moan when I saw her hands. It M-dash. It was made of straw. Is this a fucking dream sequence? Hold on, I'm not ready for chapter 7 yet. I'm about to lace my underwear with crap of pure fright. Just at the idea that Grandma Miriam's hand is fucking straw suddenly. Baby, I got a plan. Run away as fast as you can. What does he say in that song? Never much of a romantic. I could never take the intimacy. And I know I did damage. But the look in your eye is killing me. And you know of that advantage. It would kill me if one day you would up and leave. And I always find something wrong. You've been putting up with my shit for way too long. Sorry about that little runaway moment. I don't know what made me think of that. Jody, M-dash, what's the matter? Grandma Miriam asked. I started to point to what was her hand. Then it came into sharp focus, and I saw that her hand wasn't in fact straw, M-dash. She was holding a broom. Wow, holy shit. Time to get your eyes checked, Jody. She had gripped it by the handle and was pulling lint off the ends of the straw. Nothing's wrong, I told her, feeling like a total dumbass. I rubbed my eyes. I've got to take my allergy medicine, I told her. My eyes are always watery. I keep seeing things. Yeah, you're schizophrenic, not have bad eyes. I was seeing scarecrows everywhere I looked. I scolded myself for acting so crazy. Stop thinking about scarecrows, I told myself. Robbie was right. The scarecrows had moved in the wind last night. It was just the wind. Robbie took us fishing. Jesus Christ, I apologize. I don't know if I had made that mistake anywhere else in this book, but I'm guessing it's going to become an issue where if I tried to continue to say flashing, it wouldn't work. So I'm going to just go back to fishing. As we started off for the creek, he seemed in a really cheerful mood. He smiled as he swung his big... Whoa, you can't say that. Grandma Miriam had packed for our lunch. She put in all my favorites, Robbie said happily. He patted the basket with childlike satisfaction. He had 3 bamboo fishing poles tucked under his crotch. He carried the big straw basket in his left hand. He refused to let Gabe and me carry anything. The warm air smelled sweet. The sun beamed down in the cloudless blue sky. Blades of recently cut grass stuck in my white sneakers as we headed across the backyard. The medicine had helped. My eyes were finally working. Robbie turned just past the barn and began waddling quietly along its back wall. His expression turned solemn. He appeared to be concentrating hard on something. Hey, M Dash, where are we going? I called, hurrying to keep up with him. He didn't seem to hear me. He never listened to women. He headed back in the direction we started from. Hey, M Dash, wait up, Gabe called breathlessly. My brother hates to hurry when he can take his sweet ass time. I get it, Gabe. Robbie, M Dash, wait, I cried, tugging his shirt sleeve. You're going in circles. He nodded, his expression serious. Under the black baseball cap, we have to circle the barn 3 times, he said in a low voice. Huh? Why? I demanded. We started our second turn around the barn. It'll bring us good luck with our fishing, Robbie replied. Then he added, it's in the book. Everything's in the book. I opened my mouth to tell him that he was getting really stupid. But I decided not to. He seemed so serious about that stupid fucking book of his. I didn't want it to spoil this for him. Besides, Gabe and I could use the exercise. A short while later, we finished circling and started waddling along the dirt path that led past the cornfields to the creek. Robbie's smile returned immediately. He really believes the superstitions in the book, I realized. I wonder if Dix believed them too. Where's Dix, I asked, kicking a big clump of shit across the path. Doing chores, Robbie replied. Dix is a good worker, a real good worker, but he'll be along soon, I bet. Dix never likes to miss out on a fishing trip. The sun began to feel really strong on my face and on my shoulders. I wondered if I should run back and get some sunblock. Nope. The dark-suited scarecrows appeared to stare at me as we walked the tall rows of corn stalks. I could swear their pale, painted faces turned to me to follow me as I went by, checking me out. Did one of them lift its arm to wave a straw hand at me? I scolded myself for such a stupid thought and turned my eyes away. Stop thinking about the goddamn scarecrows, Jody, I told myself. Forget about your bad dreams. Forget about your grandparents. Forget about the dumb scarecrows. It's a beautiful day and you have nothing to worry about. Try to relax and have a good time. The path led to a small pine woods behind the cornfields. It got shady and much cooler as soon as we stepped into the woods. Can we take a taxi the rest of the way? Gabe whined. A typical Gabe joke. He really wanted a taxi, if there was one. Robbie shook his head. City kids, he muttered, growling. The path ended, and we continued through the trees. It smelled so piney and fresh in the woods. I saw a tiny brown and white chipmunk run for its life. Dude, it's getting hard to read in the fucking light here. Dude, candle, help me. Dude, that candle's hot. Fuck, that candle's hot. Yeah, that did nothing for me other than burn my fucking fingers. Bring that Christmas tree smell over to me. In the near distance, I could hear the musical trickle of the creek. Suddenly, Robbie stopped. He bent and picked up a pine cone. The 3 fishing poles fell to the ground. He didn't seem to notice. He held the pine cone close to his face, studying it. A pine cone on the shady side means a long winter, he said, turning the dry cone in his hand. Gabe and I bent to pick up the poles. Is that what the book says? Gabe asked. Robbie nodded. He set the pine cone down carefully where he had found it. The cone is still sticky. That's a good sign, he said seriously. Gabe let out a giggle. I knew he was trying not to laugh at Robbie, but the giggle escaped somehow. Robbie's big brown eyes filled with dirt. It's all true, Gabe, he said quietly. It's all true. I am Dash. I'd like to read that book, Gabe added, glaring at me. It's a very hard book, Robbie replied. I have trouble with some of the words. Oh, excuse me. I can hear the creek, I broke in, changing the subject. Let's go. I want to catch some fish before lunchtime. Here, hold on. I'm going to do a little trick here that'll blow your minds. I'm going to see if I can maybe make the pumpkin a little bit brighter here. And with that, make my reading a little bit easier. Can I? Jesus Christ. There we go. How's that for you? Hope that didn't ruin your immersion, but Jesus, it's getting fucking dim in here. Get that little smiling face over here. That's so much better. Where the hell was I? Jesus. The clear water felt cold against my legs. The smooth rock of the creek bed were slippery under my hairy feet. All 3 of us had waded into the shallow creek. Gabe had wanted to lie down at the grassy shore to fish, but I convinced him it was much more fun, M-, and much easier to catch something, M-, if you stand in the water. Yeah, I'll catch something, he said, grabbing his crotch. I'll catch pneumonia. Robbie let out a loud laugh. It sounded like har, har, har. He set the big picnic basket down carefully on the dry grass. Then he rolled up the legs of his denim overalls. Carrying his pole high in one hand, he stepped into the water. Ooh! It's cold, he cried, waving his arms above his head loudly. Robbie, M-, didn't you forget something? I called to him. He turned confused. His big stupid ears became bright red. What did I forget, Jody? I pointed to the fishing pole. How about some bait? I called. He glanced back at the empty hook at the end of the line. Then he made his way back to shore and grabbed a worm and put it into his mouth. Don't know how that helps him. A few minutes later, all 3 of us were in the water. Gabe complained at first at how cold it was and about how the rocks at the bottom hurt his delicate little feet. I didn't even edit the book there. That's actually what it says. Get fucked, Gabe. Stupid delicate feet. But after a while, he got into it too. The creek at this point was only about 2 feet deep. The water was not very clear and trickled rapidly, making little swirls and dips over my rocky bottom. I lowered my line to the water and watched the red plastic float bob on the surface. If it started to sink, I know I'd had a bite. I apologize, guys. If this fishing section seems particularly hard to understand, I just want to acknowledge that I've never been fishing before, and therefore I don't really know a lot of this stuff. I wish it were deep enough to swim here, I thought. Hey, M-Dash, I've got something, Gabe cried excitedly. Rob and I turned and watched him tugging at his line. Gabe pulled with all of his might. It's M-Dash. It's a big one, I think. Dude, okay, maybe I've never been fishing in my life, but you ever played the fucking big rig fishing game at like Dave and Buster's where the fucking guy goes, "Oh, you caught a big one." And the big fucking wheel. Nothing much more fun than that. That's actually S tier fucking arcade game, especially for farming tickets. You kidding me? Rob and I turned and watched him. Oh, fuck. I already read that. Finally, he gave one last really hard tug, M-Dash, and pulled up a thick clump of shit. Good one, Gabe, I said, rolling my eyes. It's a big one, all right. You're a big one. Big bitch, Gabe shot back. Don't be such a fucking baby, I muttered. I brushed away a buzzing horsefly and tried to concentrate on my line, but my mind started to wander. It always does when I'm fishing. TGIF, thank God I'm fishing. I found myself thinking about the tall scarecrows in the field. They stood so darkly, so menacingly, so alert. Their painted faces had the same hard stare. I was still picturing them when I felt the hand slip around my ankle, the straw scarecrow hand. It reached up from the water, circled my ankle, and started to tighten its cold, wet grip around my thigh. How much you want to bet this is fucking dicks? It's probably fucking dicks, right? I love the constant ending of chapters with these crazy cliffhangers that just keep not being what they seem to be. Sorry, I gotta get my drinks in. There is a great tower alone on the sea. You became the light on the dark side of me. Fuck, what is after that? You became my power, my pleasure, my pain, baby. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of compare you to a kiss on the rose on the grave. Ooh, the more I get of you, the stranger it feels, yeah. But now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the gray. Whatever the fuck he says. Is Seal still alive? I think Seal's still alive, thank God. That Batman soundtrack would not be the same without him. Chapter 8. I screamed out and kicked the hand away, but my feet slipped on the smooth rocks. My ass shot up as I toppled backwards. Ooh! I cried out again as I hit the water. The scarecrow hung on. On my back, water rushing over me, I kicked and thrashed my legs. And then I saw it, the clump of green weeds that wrapped itself around my ankle. Oh no, I moaned out loud. No scarecrow, only weeds. Yeah, who'd have fucking thought of that? I will say when I was a kid, something similar happened and I fucking nearly fainted at the idea of some underwater scarecrow pervert grabbing my ankles. So I get it, Jody. I lowered my foot back into the water. I didn't move. I just lay there on my back, waiting for my heart to stop, feeling once again like a total jerk. I glanced up at Gabe and Robbie. They were staring down at me, too startled to laugh. Don't say a fucking word, I warned them, struggling to my feet. I'm warning you, M dash. Don't say a fucking word. Gabe snickered, but he obediently didn't say anything like the bitch he is. I didn't bring a towel, Robbie said with concern. I'm sorry, Jody. I didn't know you wanted to swim. That made Gabe burst out in a loud guffaw. I shot Gabe. My t-shirt and shorts were soaked. I started to shore, carrying the pole awkwardly in front of me between my legs. I don't need a towel, I told Robbie. It feels good, very refreshing. You scared away all the fish, Jody, Gabe complained. No, you scared them away with your fat fucking ass, I replied. I knew I was acting like a baby now, but I didn't care. I was cold and wet and fucking mad. I stomped onto the shore, shaking water from my shorts. I think they're biting better down here, I heard Robbie call to Gabe. I turned to see him disappear around a curve of the creek. Stepping carefully over the rocks, Gabe followed after him. They were both hidden from view behind the thick trees. I squeezed my hair, trying to get the creek water out. Finally, I gave up and tossed my hair behind my shoulder. I was debating what to do next when I heard a crackling sound behind me in the woods. This is definitely going to be dicks. A footstep? Question mark. I turned and stared into the trees. I didn't see anyone. Another chipmunk scurried away over the blanket of dead brown leaves. Had someone M dash or something M dash frightened the chipmunk? I listened hard. Yeah, I bet you did. Another crackling footstep, rustling sounds. Who, M dash, who's there? I called. The low bushes rustled in reply. Dix, M dash, is that you? Dix? My voice trembled, no reply. It has to be Dix, I told myself. This is Grandpa Kurt Cobain's property. No one else would be back here. Dix, M dash, stop trying to scare me, I shouted angrily. No reply. Another footstep, the crack of a twig, more rustling sounds closer now. Dix, M dash, I know it's you, I called uncertainly. I'm really tired of your dumb fucking tricks, Dix. My eyes stared straight into the trees. I listened, silence now, heavy silence. And I raised my hand to my mouth as I saw a dark figure poke out from the shade of two tall pines. Dix, M dash question mark. I squinted into the deep blue shadows. I saw the bulging dark cock? What? The faded burlap head. The dark fedora that tilted over the black painted eyes. I saw the straw poking out under the jacket, the straw sticking out from the long jacket sleeves. A scarecrow that had followed us to the creek, squinting hard into the shadows, staring at its evil, frozen, sickly grin. I opened my mouth to kiss it, but no sound came out. I have no mouth and I must scream. Chapter 9. Dude, once again, fucking, I don't know if I'll be able to communicate this well. Chapter 9 is this page and like a quarter of this page. Dude, R.L. Stine did not want to write this fucking book. Dude had no faith that he could even write 100 pages. So he's just doing quarter pages and one-page chapters and shit. And then a hand grabbed my shoulder. Oh! I let out a cry and spun around. Robbie stared at me with concern. He and Gabe had come up behind me. Jody? What's the matter? Robbie asked. Gabe and I, M dash, we thought we heard you calling. What's up? Gabe asked casually. The line on his fishing pole had become tangled, and he was working to untangle it unsuccessfully. Do you see a squirrel or something? No, M dash. I, M dash. I, M dash. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely speak. Cool your fucking jets, Jody, Gabe said, imitating me. I saw a scarecrow, I finally managed to scream. Robbie's mouth dropped open. Gabe narrowed his already narrow eyes suspiciously at me. A scarecrow? Here in the woods? It was walking, I stammered. I heard it. I heard it walking. A choking sound escaped Robbie's open mouth. Gabe continued to stare at me, his features tight with fear. It's over there, I cried. Right over there. Look. I pointed, but it was gone. Not even a really good fucking cliffhanger there. Chapter 10. Am I going to be able to finish this drink? Do I have any other songs I can sing? Where was I? POV, you're reading a Goosebumps book for your YouTube page. Chapter 10, motherfucker. Stanley stared hard at me, his big brown eyes filled with dirt. I saw it, I insisted. Between the two trees, I pointed again. You did? A scarecrow? Really? Robbie asked. I could see he was really starting to get annoyed with me. Well, ... Maybe it was just the shadows, I said. Must have been the wind. I didn't want to frighten Robbie. I shivered. I'm soaked. I've got to get back in the sunlight, I told them. But did you see it, Robbie asked, his big blue eyes locked onto mine. Did you see a scarecrow here, Jody? I don't think so, Robbie. What's this? Yeah, somebody blasting somebody blasting gasolina in a fucking SUV passing my apartment. How perfect. Do you see a scarecrow, Jody? I don't think so, Robbie, I replied, trying to calm him down. I'm so sorry. This is very bad, he murmured, talking to himself. This is very bad. I've read the book. This is very bad. Then, muttering to himself, he turned and ran. Robbie, stop, I called. Robbie, come back. Don't leave us down here. But he was fucking gone, vanished into the woods. I'm going after him, I told Gabe, and then I'm going to tell Grandpa Kurt about this. Can you carry back the fishing poles by yourself? Do I have to? Gabe whined. My brother is so lazy. I told him he had to, and then I went running along the path through the woods, through the farmhouse. My heart pounded as I reached the cornfields. The dark-coated scarecrows appeared to stare at me. As my sneakers thudded into the narrow dirt path, I imagined the straw arms reaching for me, reaching to grope me and pull down my pants. But the scarecrows kept silent, still watching over the stalks. They didn't move nor twitch.tv as I hurtled past. Up ahead, I saw Robbie running to his little home. I cut my hands over my mouth and called to him, but he disappeared inside. I decided to find Grandpa Kurt Cobain and tell him about the scarecrows I saw moving through the woods. The barn door was open, and I thought I saw someone moving around inside. Grandpa Kurt Cobain, ? I asked breathlessly. Are you in there? My wet hair bounced on my shoulders as I ran. Into the barn. Whew, what a sentence. I stood at the rectangle of light that stretched from the doorway and stared into the darkness. Grandpa Kurt Cobain, I called, struggling to catch my breath. My eyes slowly adjusted to the dim light. I stepped deeper into the barn. Grandpa Kurt Cobain, are you there? Hearing a soft scraping sound around the wall, I made my way towards it. Grandpa Kurt Cobain, can I talk to you? I really need to talk to you. My voice sounded tiny and frightened in the big dark barn. My sneakers farted over the dry straw floor as I walked towards the back. I spun around as I heard a rumbling sound. The light grew dimmer. "Hey, M dash," I shouted. Too late. The barn door was sliding shut. "Hey, who's there?" I cried out, so stunned in anger. "Hey, M dash, stop." Hold on. I slipped over the straw as I started to lurch towards the sliding door. I fell down hard, but quickly scrambled to my feet. I darted towards the door, but I wasn't fast enough anymore. As the heavy door rumbled shut, the rectangle of light grew narrower. The door slammed with a deafening bung. The darkness slid around me. It circled me, covered me. "Hey, M dash, let me out," I screamed. "Let me out of here." My scream ended up in a choked sob. My breath escaped in nasally gasps. I pounded on the wooden barn door with both fists. I frantically swept my hands over the door, searching blindly for a latch, for something to pull M dash, some way to open the door. When I couldn't find anything, I pounded on the door with my crotch. Then I stopped and took a step back. "Calm down, Jody," I told myself. "Calm down. You'll get out of this barn. You'll get a way out. It's not like you're trapped in here forever." I tried to force my way through the panic. I held my breath, waiting for my heart to stop. Then I let my breath stop slowly. I was just starting to feel a little better when I heard that scraping sound, a dry scraping, the sound of a shoe crunching over straw. "Oh," I let out a sharp cry, and then raised both fists to my face and listened. Scrape, scrape, scrape. The sound of footsteps, slow, steady footsteps on the barn floor. Footsteps coming toward me in the darkness. Now we're getting scared. Guys, I'm getting scared. That was the end of the chapter, by the way. So now we're at chapter 11. Take a little sippy. Guys, I'm getting scared. What if the scarecrows come for me? What if that's them in the car passing by my house right now? "Who, M dash, who's there?" I choked out, my voice a hushed little whisper. No reply. Scrape, scrape, scrape. The soft, scratchy footsteps came closer. "Who is it?" I cried shrilly. No reply. I stared into the darkness. I couldn't see a thing. Scrape, scrape. Whoever M dash or whatever M dash was moving steadily towards me. I took a step back, then another. I tried to cry out, but my throat was gagged with fear. I let out a terrified gasp as I backed into something. In my panic, it took a few seconds to realize that it was the only wooden ladder. The ladder that had led to the hayloft. The footsteps crunched closer and closer. "Please, M dash," I uttered in a tiny, choked voice. "Please, M dash, don't, M dash." Dude, so many fucking M dashes. How the hell do we let RL get away with this shit? Like 1/3 of this fucking book is M dashes. He's gonna be hearing from me about this. I'm gonna tweet at RL Stein about this shit. Closer, scraping toward me through the heavy darkness. I gripped the sides of the ladder. "Please, M dash, leave me alone." Before I realized what I was doing, I was pulling myself up the ladder. My arms trembled and my legs felt as if they weighed 1,000 million pounds. But I scrambled rung by rung up the hayloft, away from the frightening, scraping footsteps from down below. When I reached the top, I lay flat on the hayloft floor. I struggled to listen and hear the footsteps over the pounding of my heart. Was I being followed? Was the thing chasing me up the ladder? I held my breath. I listened. Scrabbling sounds. Scraping footsteps. Go away, I screamed frantically. Whoever you are, M dash, go away. But the sounds continued, dry and scratchy, like straw brushing against straw. Scrambling to my knees, I turned to the small square hayloft window. Sunlight filtered in through the window. The light made the hay strewn over the floor gleam like slender pieces of gold. I really wish you could come up with another fucking analogy than everything looking like gold in both moon and sunlight, but whatever. My heart still pounding, I crawled to the window. Yes! The heavy rope was tied to the side. The rope that Gabe and I always used to swing on to the ground. I can get out of here, I told myself happily. I can grab the rope and swing out of the hayloft. I can escape. Eagerly, I grabbed the rope with both hands. Then I poked my head out of the window and gazed down to the ground, and then let out a scream of surprise and horror. Chapter 11's over. What do you think will happen in chapter 12? Do you think she'll get got? Chapter 12. Gazing down, I saw a black hat. Beneath it, a black coat, a scarecrow, perched outside the barn door as if standing guard. It jerked its dick at the sound of my scream. And as I stared in disbelief, it hurried around the side of the barn, holding on its straw legs and arms flapping at the sides. I blinked several times. Was I seeing things? My hands were cold and wet. I gripped the rope more tightly. Taking a deep breath, I plunged out of the small square window. The heavy rope swung over the front of the barn. Down, down, I hit the ground hard, landing on my tiny feet. Ow! I cried out as the rope cut my hands. I let go and ran around to the side of the barn. Dude, another short-ass chapter. I wanted to catch up to that scarecrow. I wanted to see if it really was a scarecrow that could run. Ignoring my fear, I ran as fast as I could. No sign of him on the side of the barn. My chest began to ache. My temples throbbed. I turned the corner and headed to the back of the barn, searching for the fleeing scarecrow, and ran right into Dix. Hey, M dash. We both shouted in surprise as we collided. I frantically untangled myself from him, staring deeply into his loving eyes. I saw that the scarecrow had vanished. What's the hurry? Dix demanded. You practically ran through me. Excuse me. He was wearing some faded jeans, slashed at both knees, and a faded purple muscle shirt that only showed off how skinny and disgusting he was. His black hair was tied back in a short ponytail. A scarecrow, I stammered, and then that instant, I knew. In that instant, I solved the whole mystery of the scarecrows. Okay, you mean to tell me she solved the whole fucking... Sorry, I had to move my chair. You mean to tell me she solved the entire mystery of the fucking scarecrows and I still have like 60 pages? What the fuck? 121 page book, page 54. On another short ass chapter, she's telling me she got the whole thing understood. You should be able to tell me the remainder of the book in like 5 pages if you fully fucking get it. Oh my God. Chapter 13. It hadn't been a scarecrow. It was Dix. In the woods down by the creek and now outside the barn, Dix, playing another one of his mean dick tricks. And I was suddenly certain that Dix had somehow made the Scarecrows twitch and pull in their stakes last night. Dix just loved fucking with the city kids. Ever since Gabe and I had been little, he'd played the scariest, meanest practical jokes on us. Sometimes Dix could be a nice guy, but he had a real cruel streak that gave him his title. I thought you were fishing, he said casually. Well, I'm not, I snapped. Dix, why do you keep trying to scare us? Huh? He pretended he didn't know what I was talking about. Dix, give me a break, I muttered. I know you were the Scarecrows just now. I'm not stupid. Scarecrow? What Scarecrow? He asked, giving me a wide-eyed, innocent expression. You were dressed as a scarecrow, I accused him. Or else you carried one here and pulled it on a string or something. You're totally fucking nuts, Dix replied angrily. Have you been out in the sun too long or something? Dix, give it up. Why are you doing this? Why do you keep trying to scare Gabe and me? You scared your dad, too. Jody, you're nuts, he exclaimed. I really don't have time to be dressing up in costumes just to amuse you and your stupid little brother. Dix, you're not fooling me, I insisted. You, I stopped short because I saw Dick's expressions change. Dad, he cried, suddenly frightened. Dad! You say he was scared? I nodded. I've got to find him, Dix exclaimed frantically. He could do something terrible. Dix, your joke has gone far enough, I cried. Please, just fucking knock it off. But he was already running towards the front of the barn, calling for his father, his voice shrill and frantic. Wow. Dix didn't find his dad until dinner time. That's the next time I saw him too, just before dinner. He was carrying his superstitions book, holding it tightly under his arm. Jody, he whispered, motioning to me to come close. His face was fat and red. His dark eyes seemed to reveal his excitement. Hi, Robbie, I whispered back, uncertainly. Don't tell Grandpa Kurt Cobain about the Scarecrows, Robbie whispered. Huh? Robbie's request caught me off guard. Don't tell your grandpa, for fuck's sake, Robbie repeated. It will only upset him. We don't want to frighten him, do we? But Robbie, I started to protest. Robbie raised a finger to his lips. Don't tell Jody. Your grandpa doesn't like to be upset. I'll take care of the Scarecrows. I have the book. He tapped the big book with his tiny finger. I started to tell Robbie that the Scarecrows was only Dix playing a mean joke, but Grandma Miriam called us to the table before I could get the words out. Robbie carried his superstitious book to the table. Every few bites, you'd pick up the big black book and read a few paragraphs. He moved his lips as he read like an idiot, but I was sitting down at the other end of the table and couldn't make out what he was saying, quote unquote. Dix kept his eyes down on the plate and hardly said a word. I think he was really embarrassed that his father was reading the superstitious book at the dinner table. But Grandpa Kurt Cobain and Grandma Miriam didn't act the least bit surprised. They talked cheerfully to Gabe and me and kept passing us more food, as if they didn't even notice Robbie's behavior. I really wanted to tell Grandpa Kurt Cobain about how Dix was trying to scare Gabe and me, but I decided to listen to Robbie and not upset my grandfather. Besides, I could deal with Dix if I had to. He thought he was so fucking tough, but I wasn't the least bit afraid of him. Robbie was still reading, jabbering away as he read, as Grandma Miriam cleared our dinner dishes. Gabe and I helped, then we took our seats as Grandma Miriam carried a big cherry pie with cheddar cheese on top of it to the table. Weird, Gabe whispered to me, staring at the pie. He was right. Doesn't Grandpa Kurt Cobain like apple pie? I blurted out. Grandma Miriam gave me a tense smile. Too early in the year for apples, she murmured. But isn't Grandpa Kurt Cobain allergic to cherries? Gabe added. Grandma Miriam stared, cutting the pie with a silver pie cutter. Everyone loves cherry pie, she replied, concentrating on her work. Then she raised her eyes to Robbie. Isn't that right, Robbie? Robbie grinned over his stupid book. It's my favorite, he said. Grandma Miriam always serves my favorite. That's my favorite. You guys ever seen that video of the 6-year-old reviewing crumble cookies? He just keeps listing all of them as his favorite. Stupid snot-nosed kid. That's my favorite. After dinner, Grandpa Kurt Cobain once again refused to tell Gabe and I a scary story. We were sitting around the fireplace staring at the crackling yellow flames. Even though it had been so hot, the air had grown cool this evening, cool enough to build a fire. A toasty fire. Ooh. Grandpa Kurt Cobain was in his rocking chair at the side of the hearth. His old wooden chair creaked as he rocked slowly towards the flames. He had always loved to gaze at the fire and tell us a frightening story. You could see the leaping flames reflected in his blue eyes, and that his voice would go lower and lower as the story got scarier. But tonight, he shrugged when I asked him for a story, the stupid fuck. He stared dully at the huge stuffed bear on the pedestal against the wall, and then he glanced across the room at Robbie. Wish I knew some good stories, Grandpa Kurt Cobain replied with a sigh. But I've clean ran out. A short while later, Gabe and I trudged upstairs to our bedrooms. What is his fucking problem? Gabe whispered as we climbed. I shook my head. Beats me. He seems so different, Gabe said. Everyone here does, I agreed. Except for Dix. He's still trying to scare us city slickers. Let's just ignore him, Gabe suggested. Let's just pretend we don't know him. We don't see him running around in his stupid Scarecrow attire. I agreed, then I said goodnight and headed to my room. Ignore the scarecrows, I thought, as I arranged the blankets on the bed. Just fucking ignore them. I'm not going to think about the scarecrows again, I told myself. Dude, we're like one page left from this fucking book and my Apple storage is running out, so it's a real race against the clock. Dude, Jesus Christ, I'm having a fucking heart attack over here. Deleting unforgettable memories that were permanently saved to my phone just so I could record this fucking Goosebumps video. Jesus Christ, man. The scarecrows didn't stop. Didn't copy him. Hey, M dash, hands up, Gabe shouted desperately. He waved his hands above his head. The scarecrows edged forward, silently, stealthily. They're not doing it, Gabe shouted. They're not following me. You don't look like a scarecrow anymore, Grandma Miriam added. They don't think you're one of them. Closer they came, staggering blindly. Closer, they formed a tight circle around us. A scarecrow brushed his straw hand against my thigh. I stared at it terrifyingly. No! It reached for my throat, the dry straw, scratching and scratching my face. Scratching. The headless scarecrow swarmed over Gabe. He thrashed and kicked, but they were smothering him, forcing him to the ground. My grandparents cried out helplessly as the dark-coated figure surrounded them as well. Robbie let out a silent gasp. Dix, M-, help me, I shrieked as the straw hands wrapped over my neck. Dix? I glanced frantically around. Dix, help me, please, where are you? Then I realized to my horror that Dix was gone. Dix, I let out a final muffled cry. The straw hands wrapped around my throat. The scarecrows rolled over me. My face was pressed into the dry straw of its chest. I tried to squirm free, but it held on, surrounded me, choked me. The straw smelled sour, decayed. I felt sick. A wave of nausea swept over me. Let go, I heard Robbie pleading. The scarecrow was surprisingly strong. It wrapped its arms around me tightly, smothering me with the disgusting straw. I made one last attempt to pull free. Struggling with all my might, I raised my head and then saw 2 balls of fire, orange streak of light, floating closer. And in the orange light, I saw Robbie's face, hard and determined. I gave another hard tug and then tumbled backwards. Dix, I cried. He was carrying 2 blazing torches. The torches from the barn, I realized. I was saving these just in case, Dix called. The scarecrows seemed to sense danger. They let go of us, then tried to scramble away. But Dix moved quickly. He swept in with 2 torches, swinging them like baseball bats. A scarecrow caught fire, then another. Sticks made another wide swing. The fire crackled, a streak of orange against the darkness. The dry straw burst into flame. The old coats burned quickly. The scarecrows twisted and writhed as the bright flames danced over them. They sank to the ground, burning so brightly, so silently, so fast. I took a step back, staring in horror and fascination. Grandpa Kurt Cobain had his arm around Grandma Miriam. They seemed close together, their faces reflecting like flickering flames. Robbie stood tensely, his eyes wide. He hugged the book tightly around his chest. He was murmuring to himself, but I couldn't make out the words. Gabe and I stood beside Dix, who held the torch in each hand, watching with narrowed eyes as the scarecrows burned. In seconds, there was nothing left but clumps of dark ashes on the ground. It's over, Grandma Miriam murmured softly. Never again, I heard Robbie mutter. The house was so quiet the next afternoon. Gabe was out in the screen porch, lying in the hammock, reading a stack of comic books. Grandpa Kurt Cobain and Grandma Miriam had gone to the afternoon nap. Dix had driven into town to pick up the mail. Robbie sat in the kitchen table, reading his superstition book. His finger moved over the page as he muttered the words in a low voice. Never again, he repeated at lunch. I've learned my lesson about this book. I'll never try to bring any scarecrows to life again. I won't even read the part about scarecrows. We're all glad to hear that. So now, on this hazy, peaceful afternoon, Robbie sat at the table, quietly reading some chapters of the big book. And I sat alone on the couch in the living room, hearing Robbie's gentle murmurings from the kitchen, thinking about the night before. It felt good to have a quiet afternoon, to be all alone and to think about what had happened. All alone. The only one in the room, the only one to hear Robbie's low murmuring as he read the book, the only one to see the gigantic stuffed brown
bear blink its eyes. The only one to see the bear lick its lips, step off the platform, snarl and paw the air with its enormous claws. The only one to hear its stomach growl as it stared at me. The only one to see the hungry look on its face as it magically came out of its long hibernation. Robbie, I called out in a tiny high voice. Robbie, what chapter have you been reading? Dude, that's the end. Bitch gets eaten by a fucking bear. Wow, what do I say? What a great book. Thanks for listening, and I'm sincerely worried that the lack of storage is going to cut this video short. So I'm going to kind of keep my thoughts curt, like the name of the grandpa here. Damn, dude, what a book. What a series of fake scares and not many actual scares. What did you think of that book? What did you think of my recanting of it? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Post a comment regardless. And I will see you in the next attempt at confirming my reading abilities, hopefully.